Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. The big development today is the ongoing US-China dynamic after last week's summit. Both sides are still framing strategic stability, but the nuance has shifted. For Washington, it's about keeping competition manageable and protecting US interests. For Beijing, it's a signal that China can run its own show on Taiwan, trade, critical minerals, and global energy while appearing predictable enough for the U.S. to avoid missteps. It's not a breakthrough, but it's the groundwork for the next moves in a very high-stakes chess game. Taiwan remains the flashpoint. President Trump's remarks about not wanting the island to go independent, paired with the framing of pending arms sales as a negotiating chip, landed squarely in Taipei's court. President Lai responded swiftly, emphasizing that Taiwan will not provoke conflict, compromise sovereignty, or yield on democracy. The $14 billion arms package in question isn't optional. These weapons, missiles, and air defense systems form the backbone of deterrence. Alexander Yui, Taiwan's representative in Washington, put it simply: Taiwan is upgrading its security system while making sure everyone knows the intruder isn't welcome. An update from what we heard earlier: Beijing is reinforcing pressure. Taiwan Premier Cho Jung-tai highlighted the PLA's daily operations across the Taiwan Strait, the Indo-Pacific, and even around Japan, citing this as the greatest source of regional instability. On the same day, China's Liaoning carrier group entered the Western Pacific for live-fire training. The scale isn't unprecedented, but the timing sends a pointed message just ahead of Lai's second anniversary in office. This is classic signaling. Remind Taipei and Washington who's projecting power while maintaining plausible deniability on escalation. Xi Jinping's diplomacy is now a full-contact exercise. Back-to-back visits from Trump and Putin allow China to show it can stabilize ties with Washington and still keep Moscow close. Putin's May 19th to 20th trip marks his 25th visit to Beijing. Ahead of that, he publicly reinforced that Russia and China support each other on core interests, including sovereignty and national unity. That's about Ukraine and the global balance, not a secret pact against anyone. At the same time, Russia is increasingly dependent on Beijing economically and technologically, including energy and components for its war machine. Putin's visit, combined with ongoing nuclear signaling, underscores Moscow's balancing act, leaning on China while asserting its own independence. Energy cooperation is central. The Power of Siberia 2 pipeline could add 50 billion cubic meters of Russian gas to China via Mongolia. Russia wants secure outlets in the face of lost European markets. China wants reliable supply, especially with Iran war tensions in the Strait of Hormuz creating uncertainty. Oil flows, pipeline talks, and recent boosts in Russia to China oil deliveries reinforce both nations' intertwined strategic interests. China's increasing energy footprint helps buffer it from maritime vulnerabilities that would matter in any Taiwan scenario. Financial maneuvers are also worth noting. The ruble hit its strongest level against the yuan since February 2023, supported by high oil prices and a U.S. sanctions waiver. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov noted that most bilateral trade payments are now done in yuan and rubles, insulating Russia from Western financial pressure. These moves reinforce the strategic leverage Beijing holds over Moscow while keeping Russia capable of its own choices. Markets are digesting all of this cautiously. After the Trump-Xi summit, investor reactions were muted. Chinese stocks were flat, and the yuan slipped slightly as focus shifted to global bonds and Iran-related uncertainty. Analysts describe the emerging posture as predictable rivalry, managed enough to reduce near-term shocks, but underlying tensions remain unresolved. It's transactional, not reconciliatory, and investors are adjusting expectations accordingly. Taiwan's defense posture continues to be a stabilizing factor. Defense Minister Wellington Koo highlighted U.S. arms sales as a counterbalancing force for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. These transfers are part of an enduring policy framework under the Taiwan Relations Act, which continues to provide a legal and strategic backbone for U.S. support. Taipei is signaling clearly that deterrence, not diplomacy for diplomacy's sake, is driving its military modernization. Meanwhile, China's domestic economy and external engagements reveal why Beijing wants a calmer environment. April data showed retail sales barely rising and industrial output slowing, with property investment down sharply. Exports tied to electronics and AI are performing, but the domestic economy is lopsided. That drives Xi to keep the US and Russia focused on stability while China manages its leverage in trade, critical minerals, and energy markets. Rare earth exports, in particular, remain tightly controlled, with selective easing to address US concerns, but without surrendering strategic leverage. On the intelligence and security front, Beijing has ramped up warnings against foreign espionage targeting the party, military, rare earths, photovoltaics, semiconductors, high-end chips, and AI sectors. Risks include phishing, cloud vulnerabilities, and technical eavesdropping. China is signaling both domestically and internationally that it is monitoring threats closely and maintaining strict oversight over critical technologies. In operational cooperation, China and the U.S. participated with the UAE in their first joint telecom and online fraud operation in Dubai, dismantling 9 fraud dens and arresting 276 suspects. Separately, China and Mongolia announced joint army training in Inner Mongolia from late May to early June, focusing on illegal armed groups. These events underscore Beijing's attention to both domestic security and regional stability. Finally, Russia is amplifying its deterrence signals. 3-day nuclear drills began May 19th, involving tens of thousands of personnel, missile launchers, aircraft, surface ships, and submarines, including strategic nuclear assets. The exercises, which also include Belarus, are a direct demonstration of Moscow's readiness and serve as a backdrop to its growing dependence on Beijing for economic and energy support. Altogether, what we see today is a multi-layered strategy. The US and China are experimenting with managed rivalry, Taiwan is reinforcing deterrence without escalation, Russia is leveraging China while projecting independent military capability, and markets and allies are parsing every signal. The Indo-Pacific is quiet on the surface but strategically very active underneath, and each move, diplomatic, economic, or military, carries multiple layers of meaning. Thank you for listening and for contributing to the growth of this community. If you found the show valuable, a review or a thoughtful comment helps extend its reach to others. For more in-depth analysis, we publish a daily intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, covering Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Take care and have a great day.